Shauku yangu ni kumsifu Bwana, shauku yangu,
shauku yangu, shauku yangu, shauku yangu, shauku yangu ni kumsifu Bwana.
First of all, welcome, welcome. And thank you. I'm honored, I'm humbled. I don't know if I have enough words for what your presence here tonight. Some of you I don't know, and I met tonight. Some of you are family, and some of you I've known since birth. So it thrills me that you're here. First of all, let's give a round of applause for the kitchen and the servers. And we'll cover some of this in the program, but if it weren't for volunteers, Bucket by Bucket wouldn't exist. And I appreciate everyone. For those who don't know, I am Alan Middleton, president and founder of Bucket by Bucket. We'll get into the story, but the Lord put this in my lap a few years ago, and it's been an incredible journey. I've been told the best way to start these things is with an icebreaker, and the best icebreaker I could think of would be a fat penguin, but I'm all fresh out of fat penguins. It's clearer? Enunciate. How long have you been married to me? But Cindy did give me a little help before I started. She told me, she said, try not to be too charming, too witty, or too intelligent. Just be yourself. So I will try to do that. But seriously, I'm very humbled for you by your presence, and I thank you. Bucket by Bucket began quite providentially. I love our story. I know many of you have heard it, but I'm going to tell it again. Northport's been involved in the work in Tanzania. I'm going to keep checking this screen because it's not that I don't trust technology. It's just I don't trust technology. Northport's been involved in the work in Tanzania since about 2004. In 2015, we were getting ready to take a trip. And just a couple of weeks before we left, a brother walked up to me and stuck a check in my pocket. Now, that happens quite a bit right before a trip. And a lot of times it's $5 and $20 and sometimes $100. That's what I call our Bible money. We go over there and we buy Bibles in Tanzania with that. I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize David Estes. He has taken over that mantle and is doing a fantastic job organizing our trips. It's a good work, and I'd love to see it continue. But I never open a check in front of folks, and any of you who have ever given me a check know that. I'll just stick it in my pocket and I'll look at it later. Well, I get home and open this check and it's $10,000, and I'm like, well, we're not buying that many Bibles, so what do I do with it? So several phone calls, much prayer. We decided to put a well in at Mosquito River in Toowoomba, where we work. And seemed like a really good idea. The water is a real challenge for them there. And so that's what we did. We get there, we meet with the well diggers, and go on about our evangelistic campaign, which is what we were there for. Well, that's where the story gets interesting, because the day after I met with the well drillers and we agreed on a price, 3 guys showed up in shorts, flip-flops, carrying a bucket and a gunny sack. And I thought, here we go, they're just playing with me. But no. In that bucket was a couple of coils of rope. In that gunny sack was a shovel with the handle cut off, a pick with the handle cut off, a hammer, and a coal chisel. And that's what they brought to dig the well. I thought, okay. Well, we went on about our business. I think the keys were there that trip. And it was remarkable because every day we got home, they were a little deeper down the hole. They drew a 3-foot circle on the ground and started chipping away. And that ground is hard. And they just kept chipping away. Well, make sure I'm in sync here. I am. They dug 63 feet straight down. By the time we left, they weren't done digging the well, but you could hear them down there pecking away. You couldn't see them no more. It was so dark. So the next day you have a bad day at work, you could be digging wells in Africa. So thank the Lord for what you got. But they dug down 63 feet, hit water, dug a little more to have some reservoir. And then they line them with brick. Now, if y'all will notice that gentleman coming out of that well, there's no ladder there. Those young men ran in and out of that hole like cat squirrels the whole time. It's really something to see. But they got the well in. They got it capped and secured. Sorry, I'm struggling with my hand motion too. And that's the way they secure them. But the end result was just what we were looking for. We had a good well with good water for the community and the congregation there. Well, started getting reports that villagers coming to get water were building a relationship with the members at the church, and next thing you know, Bible studies are happening. Still true, Ginger. I get emotional when I talk about this part. These people were coming and they were getting the word, and shortly after we're getting reports that some of them are being converted. Souls are being added to the church. Sorry. So suddenly this generous providential gift is not just about helping, it's about souls. And as we say all the time, Greg, the goal is souls. Really, that's what we're about. So the question becomes, how do we repeat this? Talked to our brother here who was very helpful in helping direct my thoughts. Talked to some more people. Did a lot of research, a lot of reading online. 2 years later, Bucket by Bucket was born. We started the effort in earnest. We started raising funds, and we started putting in wells. And we put them, just like the first one, make sure I got that right. Nope. Just like the first one, at locations where the Lord's people met. Because that's where the spiritual peace happened. So that's what we did for 7 years. We saved money. We put in a well. We'd gather some more money. We'd put in a well. And we kept doing that across North Tanzania, and eventually we spread out further into the country. But that's what we've done for 7 years. And I can say this confidently, each project has been successful. We've struggled with water once, and we'll talk about that in just a second. And we've had some wells go bad because of contamination. And so we had to go back and do some work. But I say successful because not one project have we had that souls weren't brought to Jesus and the kingdom was furthered and God was glorified. So people hear about Bucket by Bucket and they think, oh, it's a goodwill charity. Well, yes, that's what we do. But, let me pause because I'm remiss again as a host. There is coffee in the back to go with your cheesecake. I apologize for not pointing that out earlier. You're not going to hurt my feelings if you get up and go get a coffee. But we lost one well completely to vandalism. But before we did, souls were saved. We had well get contaminated with groundwater. And how that happens is, quite honestly, everybody there has an outhouse, and we'll leave it there. But what do? You just go back and drill to safe water, and you continue to allow God to do what He does. This picture here is actually that first well we dug. That's at that site. We're drilling a well there. So that's kind of how we started and how we got to where we are. This is the one where we hit a dry hole. And we do a geological survey before, and to try not to do that. But we went down to the desired depth, and we hit mud, and went all the way till we ran out of sucker rod, and we never did hit water. So what we did is to overcome that, though. My apologies, fumbly. As we went back to that site, and we put in a water collection system. That's 10,000 liter tank. There's a 5,000 liter tank up on top of the pressure tower. And there's room there for 5 more, which we hope will happen in 2025. And that gives them enough water to just about make it through the dry season. And to explain that to those who don't know, Tanzania's rains come in season. It's almost like in Southeast Asia where they have the monsoons. It rains a lot, it floods everything, and then it's like you turned off a tap and not a drop falls for months. Then it rains again, what they call the short rains, a little bit, and then it's dry season. And what the struggle in the dry season is this: all the groundwater starts freezing up, drying up. The surface water just dries up. So they have to go further and further and further to get water. One of the things that also touched my heart with this work is finding out that the young girls, just like these that are serving us our food tonight, are the ones that's the responsibility in their culture to gather water every day. So if things start drying up and they got to go 3 miles to get water, well, that takes half the day, and guess what? They don't get to go to school and things like that. So what we do, or what God does through us, is so much bigger than a cup of clean water. And this church right here, I want to pause for a minute because we've had success everywhere, but this one blows my mind. This is an urban church. It's Mbagala. It's in the middle of Dar es Salaam, one of their biggest cities. It's an urban church, and we really weren't doing that. We were just going to rural congregations and putting in wells. Well, I got talked into this, met with the elders. I was very encouraged by what they told me. So we put a well in there. If their building was almost as wide as this room and probably about as deep as from where I am to the back, that was their building. It was a good-sized congregation for Tanzania. Since they've gotten a well, they've added on half of this building again to one side. And God can do whatever you'll allow him to do every time. This is the most scenic well we have probably out in Mwanza. It's out by Lake Victoria. And I don't understand the physics here. I don't understand the geology here, but that well keeps going dry on us. So we'll go back and drill that one and get them in some solid water, which is right on the shores of the lake, but I don't know. That's the way that works. So here, this map here, if this helps, that's Tanzania. You can barely see the border lines there up the side. They're actually below here. But we've done 15 projects at 11 locations. We currently have 10 active wells. Everyone is still, even the first ones, being productive for souls. And as long as we can do that, that's great. I'll advertise Tanzania a little bit now. The people are amazing. This is me at Mbambula, one of our Western congregations. This lady here is at Kazabizio, and she's kind of made herself warden over the well thing, but that's okay because she makes sure everybody gets water. And one of the things we stress to them when we put in a well is don't overuse it. You know, kind of pace yourselves, and your well will be fine. And so far, other than the one that had the vandalism, we've been good. But this is it right here. This is why we do what we do. This is at Kazabizio as well. This is the portable baptistry that they got sponsored. Somebody bought for them. And now, instead of walking way down the hill to be baptized, they can fill this up out of the well and use it right there by the congregation. And we just keep having these stories over and over and over. This is at Mosquito River. They have a baptistry inside the building. If I was standing preaching to you from a stage in a church, that's where the baptistry is. So you got to be careful when you preach at Mosquito River. You'll step in once you do pretty. So, but guys, I just can't say it enough. That's what gets me charged. And then the congregations have started using the wells for drip irrigation. This is at Arusha. They can grow food year round. Now you think if it doesn't rain for 5 months, you're not able to grow food very much. This is at Mbambula. Switched, it did. And this one is at Kazabizio. I wish I could have saw Kazabizio. I went while the tower was under construction. The well was already drilled. The tower was under construction. And they hadn't even started using their new building yet. Well, it was hard scrabble ground. There was nothing but rocks, thorns, and hard dirt. I'm talking about hard pan. And when Ellie sent me this picture, I couldn't believe it. It blew my mind because that takes a lot of work. But they were so thrilled that the God had given them the opportunity. Now, you heard me mention Ellie's name several times. There's the man himself. Ellie Martin, Injalumi, just Ellie Martin to those of us who struggle with Swahili. He's my guy on the ground. He's president of Bucket by Bucket Tanzania. And anytime we have a project, that's how we get it done. He's just indispensable. He's tireless. And he embarrasses me because we're the same age. So, but this is Naima and Irene. I call her Irene. Her name is actually Irene because of the way they say their E's. But the government of Tanzania makes us have a staff. You can't be an NGO without dedicated office space and at least 3 employees. So that's Ellie, Naima, and Irene. And that's our little office. It's at the end of a container. This is what we used for that. A little bit about what's going on right now. The importance of a drilling rig campaign and the information you got. If you did not get information when you registered, please do so on your way out. There's 2 pamphlets in there, and it'll tell you all you need to know. But we'll touch on this right here, right now. I don't know if you can read that. Probably not. But we have the opportunity right now to be able to get a refurbished rig, and it's about $190,000 for that. 180, 190, depending on, because it's what's available. And through October 31st, we have a $90,000 match for that. So please help us with that. If we can make this happen, everything changes. The 2 examples I have, which obviously you can't see, $45,000 annual income. I tried to make the money work so it was easy. Plus minus salary and overheads, about $12,000, and then about $3,000 for accounting and taxes that we have to pay the Tanzanian government. That leaves $30,000. With that $30,000, we can put in 2 wells. If we get our own rig, that same $45,000, minus salary and overhead, because that will change very little, with that same $30,000, we can put in 6 wells. Now, if every well is producing the way these wells produce, as far as souls for the kingdom, that's an opportunity we can't pass up. So I would very much encourage you to reach deep tonight and in the weeks to come, and go back and tell someone you know who might be interested. I'll be glad to go talk to individuals. The economics just make sense. If somebody walks up to me and hands me a $10,000 check, which happens from time to time, that's 2/3 of a well. Going forward, somebody walks up to me and hands me a $10,000 check, that's 2 wells. I mean, that's exponential. The economics make sense. And there's a thing in Tanzania, and I'm still learning. I've talked to a couple of lawyers and some tax people, and I'm going to go over and meet with them next year. It's a business-oriented NGO. We'll have to change our charter over there. We won't have to change anything here. But we could actually hire out to do wells for people that can afford it. And then that money comes back into the organization. So we could very much become a self-sustained Tanzanian charity, which would give us the opportunity to expand into other countries. Because all of sub-Saharan Africa fits this model. Southeast Asia fits this model. South America through the Andes fits this model. It's called, the World Health Organization calls it economic water scarcity. That's their term. And that means there's water there. The common citizen, civilian person can't go get it. So that's where we come in. And to help people from a humanitarian standpoint, there's no reason not to. But when you throw in the fact that souls are being saved, the gospel's being preached, and we dovetail very well with the work that's over there that many of you are familiar with Andrew Conley. They're producing preachers and planting churches. If we can come behind them and put holes in the ground and clean water and give them this tool, it's just going to continue to grow. I'll stop for a minute and and do a little Q&A. But I have one more thing. That picture is, of course, our front page of our website, and we're on Facebook, and we're on, is that Instagram? Instagram, see how techie I am? So you can follow us, and I can promise you with this rig, if we can get it, we can swing that, there'll be a lot more to follow. So appreciate that. I'm going to do this because I'm not above it, and I think it makes a point. Before I do, though, I do want to cover a couple of things. There are envelopes on your tables. Fill them up. Use them. I can promise you this. We have a volunteer organization in the U.S. I don't draw money. I cover expenses, but that's about it. If somebody spends money doing something, I'll cover that. But nobody draws a salary. And some tremendous people are helping me under those conditions. And as long as I can stand it, that's the way we're going to do it. Because I want every dollar to go towards a well that helps further the gospel. And I have a couple more things to say at the end. This is at Izutu. This is the only non-church well we've done. It's an elementary school in South Tanzania. We did it at the behest of the Tanzanian government. Of course, that's a dance too, staying in good graces with the foreign government like that, and keeping the grafting and stuff down to a minimum. But there's over 1,000 students at this elementary school, and they had no on-site water. When they could afford it, they'd truck some in. Most of the time, they didn't have water. So we put a well there, and this is a little clip. It might take me a minute after this to talk. This is a little clip of the first day we turned this water on. Just leave that right there for y'all to look at. Ellie's description of this, he said it was like you kicked over an anthill. His kids just, 1,000 kids, a lot of kids. And they just about drained the tank that first day, drinking out of their hands, empty water bottles, whatever they could get water into. They're so excited. And it's good work. It's God's work. And sorry. Cy Stafford, who changed my life, has always said, what God controls grows. That's our goal. Give God this work, exhaust ourselves doing it, and He'll see to the fruit. But we're to be productive. We're so blessed in this country. We don't understand it sometimes. I go to Africa as often as I can, and I take it for granted. We think we need things that we want. People that don't have what they need. Sorry, thought I'd get through this better. Well, my plea to you, my final plea to you is be generous. If you can't, because everybody can't, keep us in your prayers, please. We covet that.
My desire is to praise the Lord. My desire.
My desire, my desire.